For further analysis of these stories, I'm joined by Mr. Sumbo Badejoko, a public affairs analyst. Hello, Sumbo. Thanks for joining us on the show.
It's a pleasure to be here. Good morning, Nikki.
All right, looking at the stories, let's start with the very first one that talked about payments dropping by 50%. That's what discos are paying to the electricity generation companies. How do you even react to that? Start with.
I'm not surprised at that because if you look at the activities of the GenCos of late, they've not really been generating enough to transmit and distribute to the consumers. And we know that the discos too, they are yet to meet up with the mass metering directive given to them by the government. More than half of their customers are yet to be metered, meaning that a good number of us are on post-paid billing system, which means till they pay, they have to use the electricity before they are paid. And when they are not getting the electricity supply, they have also been refusing to pay. I could remember in my area, I got a bill for less than 1,000 naira, and that is the lowest in quite a while, which because I'm yet to get the prepaid meter myself. So that tells you that there is a reduction in the amount that people are actually paying the discos. And once the discos will only pay the GenCo from what they are able to generate. And of course, don't forget.
Let me come in here. What about the invoice? Let me come in here. What about the invoice? If I give you an invoice, that means I must have provided service up to that amount. Don't you think so?
Yes. The invoice will be, they have to pay the amount on the invoice based on their own revenue base. And if they are not generating enough, they would, of course, the report is only giving us one side. It's not giving us the reasons why the discos have paid just half of the total amount. So, and if I want to use my own knowledge of the reason why they would have paid that half is because they do not have enough money to actually defray those charges. So that is why it is like that. But if you go into the discos book, what you will find there is that they have not generated enough revenue to be able to meet up with that payment. And why they have not generated is what I highlighted earlier. The consumer, those are you and I consuming the thing at the base. We are not getting service, value added for, we're not getting the quality service for the amount we are paying. So a good number of us are discouraged. And those who are on prepaid, of course, until they consume the units, they don't have any reason to buy any electricity units prepaid. So those are the reasons why their revenue has dropped because electricity supply has been very poor in the last couple of months.
Well, that's us holding brief for them. But then let's look at this drop in payments. What implication will it have on the generation companies?
Well, the generation companies, they belong to the government. The government will have to, if they are in need of money to buy equipment and all that, the government can give them bailouts pending the time that the discos will be able to pay their balance. But I don't see it having much implication like that. It's just that these are a result of the system of electricity that we are operating. Having just one single grid for a country of 200 million population is absurd and really need to be worked on.
All right, I guess that's you already talking about some of the solutions that can be maybe taking heed to in the sector. Is that correct?
Yes, because you can't have one single grid supplying the entire population. We need to federalize the grid. Having a national grid is supposed to serve as a backup to the federalized grid system.
Okay, you're talking about you're talking about federalized grid system, but then recently we heard talks that the federal government plans to decentralize this power generation.
Yes, it's subject to a legislative procedure, and from what I know, the current proposed amendment to the Constitution has actually removed electricity generation from the exclusive list and is now on the concurrent list. The moment that passes and the president has sent onto it, then the component unit, that is the state government, can now go and embark on their own independent power project, meaning that they can operate independent of the grid. And
All right, so let's move on to some other stories that we talked about earlier today. We looked at a story from the oil refineries, the refineries, yes, where we had Mele Kyari saying that the federal government regrets that refineries are not working. I mean, how would you react to that coming from Mele Kyari?
Well, Mele Kyari is one person that, if I'm the president of this country, would have lost his job way back. Because I don't know if he has conscience at all, and he's not ashamed to say that kind of thing, that the refinery, we have 4 refineries. I could remember vividly that in the inception of this administration, the president himself said, while accusing the past administration that they inherited 4 refineries and they could not maintain them, that if they are not adding any to it, they should be able to maintain the ones they inherited. Now, this administration, 7 years on, is guilty of the same thing. You also inherited 4 refineries. You've not added a single one. You have refused to grant enough licenses and given enough incentives to private sectors who have the capacity to set up this one. Even Dangote, that is the only one close to giving us a private refinery or petrochemical complex, is yet to commence operation. And because the government is so lazy, they always give us excuses of lack of fund and the rest of them. They've relied so much on the Dangote refinery, and things are slowing down. Dangote is supposed to start operation according to the earlier date given by 1st of July. But from information I had concerning the state of that refinery, it is still at about 85% completion, which means we may not be having Dangote refinery this year. And last year, the federal government voted some money for the rehabilitation of the Port Harcourt refineries. It did not give the National Assembly Committee update on the state of the Port Harcourt refinery. If we don't stop importing the product, for now, we are importing every single petroleum product in this country, and yet we are the 6th or the 7th largest producer of crude oil in Nigeria. Even the LPG that we don't used to import before, because of the removal of subsidy on kerosene, people's attention has been diverted to the LPG as the means of cooking, and the pressure has now been on the NNLG to not meet up with the local supply. So we have to be importing the LPG as well. So we are importing every single petroleum product into the country now.
All right, I totally understand where you're coming from. But then again, Farouk Ahmed was actually preferring solutions to some of the issues bedeviling this sector. And then he said something about Forex should be made available to genuine importers. And one would ask, isn't that a given? Why do we have to talk about this again?
That is why I said he should be ashamed of himself.
This is actually Farouk Ahmed, another person.
It was the Nnpc that refused to allow marketers to import the refined product by themselves. They are the sole importer and distributing it to the major marketers who have tank farms. It is from these major marketers that the independent marketers now get the product. Now, look at that chain. Now, we have some independent marketers that are wealthy enough, have the capacity to bring in this product. But they wanted to regulate the whole thing, in quotes, and control the flow. That has caused problem over time. Now, fix the refineries, we are not fixing it. The only solution and the only way forward, because we would keep talking about subsidy so long as we are importing. The only time we will stop talking about subsidy is when we have functional refineries in the country. Now, there are modular refineries that are scattered all over the Niger Delta and the East. How many of these modular refineries are working? What is the Nnpc doing to really investigate their activities, know the nature of the challenges they are facing, and help them to solve those challenges so that they would be able to cut off the supply volume that we are bringing into the country, rather,
right, so
that would reduce the pressure on the forex. Asking that the CBN should be giving forex to legitimate importers, people would always, CBN will not follow them down to the field or to the market. They would only look at the document they submitted to them.
right, so I think this is a good place to anchor on that so we can move on to the other stories.
Okay.
All right,
so
we're looking.
The way forward is just that the government needs to really answer completely, but they must put those refineries in place.
All right. Now, we're looking at the revocation of Niger Insurance PLC's license. And then it's not only Niger Insurance. We have another insurance company. And the reason for this is that they are not able to meet up with the obligations with policy holders. Now, what is the fate of these policy holders now that their licenses have been withdrawn?
Of course, Nikon would take over the operation. The licenses are for the owners, not that the what is it called now? The share value or the premium that
the premium of the policyholders, the customers,
will not be. Everything is insured. It's just that they have problem at the management level, so that's why the license is withdrawn. The assets will still be managed now by Nikon, and of course, people's premium will be given back to them whenever they have claims, genuine claims to get them.
All right, now let's look at the facts of the matter, because we see Sam Uzekwe talking about the fact that inflation is part of the reason why some of these insurance companies are not able to meet up with their obligations. Not only that, Sam also alluded to the fact that the environment really isn't convenient enough for doing business, and he said that's one of the reasons we are having this issue in the insurance sector. What's your take?
Those are excuses. When you say the environment is not conducive for doing business, why did you start the business in the first instance? Because the Nigerian environment has not really changed much to take of the security situation, which has not really affected them that much. Now, these insurance companies, most of them are very corrupt. They are quick at collecting the premium from you, but when it comes to paying the claims to insurers, that is when they begin to come with all manner of excuses. They are asking for all manner of documents, changing goalposts in the middle of the game. And of course, a good number of them, if you go to the courts, the industrial court and the rest of them, a good number of them have tons of litigations that they are dealing with as we speak. And of course, those are also going to be costing them money, because lawyers will not go to court for free. So they prefer to be paying money on the litigation rather than giving legitimate claims to those who have it. So these are areas that they are having problems. Yes, they may have some genuine reason in terms of the running costs, because power supply and some other things. But how many of them are having the full-fledged staff that they started with? They've downsized over time. So the management of all these companies are the culprits here, because they take too much than they deserve, and to the detriment of those who are the insurers in their respective companies. And that's why they are going bankrupt.
All right, now let's look at the last one. The final story we talked about earlier today mentioned the fact that 180 billion naira is the amount of unclaimed dividends we have. That's according to the Securities and Exchange Commission. And now the question is, how come we have up to that? What's happening? Who are these people? Why don't they have access to their dividends?
There are some reasons that could lead to that. There could be an error in profiling. The owners of those share value could have been deceived, and some of them may not have next of kin. Some next of kin may not be aware that their parents or guardians have such assets in those places. The managers of those assets could have been retired or appointment terminated. There could be some managerial problem, and it could be a clear case of corruption. So these are some of the reasons why we have those unclaimed dividends. Well, the government at the end is aware of the situation, and I think they are trying to make a law now that would give a time frame for which dividend must be claimed. After that period, the money will be withdrawn into the treasury.
All right, now we're looking at the fact that they are saying, okay, now we're looking at the fact that they're trying to reduce this to about 0%. How can that be achieved?
It's what I just said. The government will have to come in with proper regulations, and of course the proper litigation. So if they need to amend the laws guiding the to have direct access to those dividends, but there has to be a time frame that is reasonable enough. Maybe they will have to change the conditions at the entry point. Maybe they have to submit, they have to do some verification of the profile of those who are buying in the shares. And if a company is liquidating or they're being acquired by another company, because when that happens, it means the new company, the new holding company will have to vet every profile of those whose shares are being acquired from the former company. So these are some of the reasons to why we have situations like that. In the process of transferring of data, some will be left out. Then they have to also improve in the area of biometrics for those who are their legitimate shareholders. This will also help in a way to verifying who those who are the owners of the dividends are and those who are not claiming it. Of course, we have the BVN now, which will definitely
makes it
be
easy
for them to link who the next of kin are. And of course, through the contact the family members that, well, your relative is having this with us and you can come and claim it. That is what is obtainable in advanced countries.
All right, on a lighter note now, let's say I probably want to trace to know if my forefather is part of those people who have money there. What should I do?
I didn't get that.
I said on a lighter note, in closing actually, if I want to confirm if my grandfather happens to be one of those people who have their monies with the SEC, what should I do?
Well, you need to first of all be sure that if you don't have that information, there's nothing you can do, because they will ask for documents which you must provide, and if you can't provide that, well, they will simply walk you out of the organization.
All right, thank you so much, Sumbo Badijoko, for coming on the show and for sharing your thoughts.
It's always a pleasure speaking to you.
All right, do enjoy the rest of the day.